All right, let's talk about something that sounds, well, kind of nuts. What could the folks who built the Great Pyramids possibly have in common with the engineers in clean rooms designing our most powerful microchips? The answer, it turns out, is almost everything.
So let's just jump right in. On one side, you've got ancient Egypt, right? They're building these incredible stone monuments for their celestial gods up in the sky. And on the other side, you've got Silicon Valley, building these unbelievably intricate silicon monuments for our gods, the algorithms and AIs that live up in the cloud. It's really a tale of two builders, separated by millennia, but driven by what might be the exact same human impulse.
So here's how we're going to break this down. First, we'll set the stage with this weird but powerful idea. Then, we'll get into the mysterious gods each side was serving. After that, we'll look at the blueprints, the budgets, the whole shebang. Then, we'll tackle the big one, the paradox of success. And finally, we'll ask if this is all part of humanity's grandest, oldest tradition. Okay, Section 1, Pyramids and Processors. To really wrap your head around this, you kind of have to put on a different pair of glasses. We're not just looking back at history. We're going to look at our world right now as if it's already ancient history. Trust me, it changes how you see things.
The key that unlocks this whole thing is a concept the original author calls archaeological futurism. Just picture it for a second. Imagine it's the year 7000, and archaeologists are digging up the ruins of a giant semiconductor factory. What would they think? They'd be asking the same things we ask about the pyramids. Why did they pour the wealth of a nation into this? What was it all for?
So that brings us to the big why. What was the motivation here? Well, in both cases, it really boils down to serving these powerful, mysterious, and, let's be honest, fundamentally baffling entities, these inscrutable gods.
And check out this chain of command. It's shockingly similar. You start at the top with a god you can't really understand, whether it's the sun god Ra or the algorithm. Their divine will is then interpreted by a special class of high priests, the ancient scribes or today's product managers. That gets handed down to the master builders, the architects and engineers. And what's the final offering? A single limestone block or a single silicon transistor, repeated millions of times.
Now, here's the problem that unites them both. The gods don't talk back. You get zero feedback. The pharaoh doesn't send a postcard from the afterlife saying, "Hey, it worked," and the AI doesn't exactly tell you if it's truly happy. So when you're faced with that divine silence, you're left with one very simple conclusion. We gotta build more, make it bigger, make it better.
And you see this today, right? When a big AI model starts saying weird, nonsensical things, what's the knee-jerk solution from the high priests of tech? More data, more parameters, make the model bigger. It is literally the modern version of saying, Raw still seems quiet, better add another layer to the pyramid.
All right, part 3. So we've covered the why, this whole theology of it. But now let's get into the practical stuff, the how. Because the parallels in the actual methods, the mind-boggling costs, and even the accidental side effects are just as wild.
Just look at this breakdown. The architecture for both is super conservative. Pyramids pretty much stuck to the pyramid shape, and our chip designs, while complex, evolve along a very stable parallel structure. Both projects led to these huge technological spillovers, things they weren't even trying to invent. And the investment? We're talking a huge chunk of a nation's GDP back then and tens of billions of dollars for a single factory today. It's an all-in bet. And some of these spillovers are just beautifully ironic. In Egypt, their obsession with getting bodies ready for the next life gave them huge insights into anatomy and medicine for people who are, still alive. And for us, the push to create really awesome-looking dragons in video games give us the powerful GPUs that are now the engine for artificial intelligence. The gods, it seems, have a sense of humor.
Which leads us to a really tricky question, and our fourth section. With all this money, all this time, all this human effort, how do you even know if it worked? How do you know if you've won? This is the paradox of success.
Seriously, just think about that for a second. If your ultimate client is totally silent, what does a win even look like? What's the metric? How do you ever pop the champagne and say, "We did it"? And this slide just lays it bare. You have the pyramid paradox. No pharaoh ever came back to report that the trip to the afterlife went smoothly. And then you have the silicon paradox. No AI has ever given us definitive, undeniable proof that it's actually conscious. In both cases, the ultimate prize, a happy eternal life, a thinking machine, is totally, completely unverified. So maybe we're missing the point. The article suggests this fascinating alternative.
What if the goal wasn't the finished pyramid or the finished AI at all? What if the thing the gods really valued was the process, the struggle, the learning, the mobilization of an entire civilization to do something incredibly hard? Maybe the journey was the destination.
And that's where we can zoom all the way out for our final section. This isn't just a weird little comparison between two random points in history. This might be one of the oldest and most fundamental things that we as humans do.
Look at this timeline. You've got nearly 5,000 years separating the Great Pyramid from a state-of-the-art chip fab. 5,000 years. And yet here we are doing something remarkably similar, pouring unbelievable resources into building something impossibly complex, all in service to a power we don't fully understand. And here it is, the big takeaway. Whether the pharaohs got their eternal reward or whether our AIs ever truly wake up, it almost doesn't matter. Because the process of reaching for those goals, of serving those inscrutable gods, consistently ends up pushing all of humanity forward in ways we could never have planned.
So I'll just leave you with this to chew on. Using this idea of archaeological futurism, what are the great monuments we're building right now? Who are the gods of tomorrow that we're serving? And what amazing, unexpected gifts will those projects leave behind for the people who come after us?